Hi again, everyone. Welcome to another new edition of Dead Men Talk. And for this one, this is actually, I'll say right off the bat, this is the guest that got the ball rolling for me to actually put together the fifth series. When I knew I had the chance to welcome her back, I knew I had to do it. So from season 3, I got to chat with this amazingly talented singer-songwriter, and I'm thrilled to welcome her back to talk about a very exciting upcoming new release. Maryen Cairns, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you. It's good to be here, Chris.
Oh,
I'm pretty good, I think.
good.
Always a bit mad, but what's new?
wouldn't have you any other way, to be honest with you. We've just been having a thrilling chat before we came on. You spent the day in a pumpkin farm.
Well, part of the day, yeah.
Which is fantastic. Obviously being October, where else would you want to be, really? So, is that a big thing for you, Halloween?
Well, I think it is. I mean, it's not massive in Australia, and it's not really massive in Scotland, where I spent my formative years. However, when I was a baby, like literally a few months old, we went to the States and I actually spent sort of 18 months or so living there. I had older brothers and they got into the Halloween. So by the time, so as soon as I was able to sort of walk at Halloween, I had to get dressed up and walk up driveways and trick or treat in Scotland when I was little. And it's something that there wasn't a lot of that happening in Australia in most places, but I lived in this little mountain community called Springbrook for like quite a long time when my kids were little, and that was a really safe place. And it was crazy at Halloween in the sort of main little streets. All the kids would dress up and my kids were crazy on it. In fact, one of my sons, when he was a teenager, he and his friends put on different costumes and they went round and round and round and round all the same things. They wore masks so that no one could see who they were. And it was really good. They love it. Yeah. So I was thrilled to actually go to like a pumpkin farm today. And I have to tell you, my most thrilling thing was they actually had some Queensland blues, which are kind of blue. They were not quite as big as the Queensland blues usually get. But I think that's fair enough. It's a slightly different weather.
They haven't been around painting normal pumpkins or anything like that. They're actually blue, or they?
Yeah, they're kind of grey blue, and they get really, really big. And I've never actually seen anyone using them before for Halloween, because usually in Australia we roast them. We cut them up and roast them in the oven, or make pumpkin soup.
Yeah.
But this guy was actually. He was actually carving it there, and he was using like the blue as like hats and things. It was fantastic.
That's
yeah.
Brilliant. That is brilliant. There you go. So, folks, you've tuned in to hear us supposedly talk about music, and we start off talking about pumpkins and Halloween. But why not?
Yeah, you got to.
This is it's the time of year, isn't it? So it's everywhere, and it's upon us as we do record this. Not long to go. My kids have always been mad on it, and like I was saying before, at least my son is. My daughter seems to have shied away from it a little bit this year, but it's almost like since his birthday, this is the one thing he lives for before Christmas. So, but sadly, we're not. Well, we're always really antisocial here. Our community here is fantastic. They a lot of the neighbours do a lot for Halloween. They leave sweets out and whatever for trick-or-treaters, but we are one of the families that are just hiding upstairs with all the lights off, ignoring the doorbell. So apologies for everyone out there who may know me, who's tried to knock on my door at Halloween. No, don't do it. So anyway, I worked out today actually, because I didn't realize how long it'd been since I last spoke to you. I thought it was earlier this year, and I looked back and it was actually a year ago.
I did the same thing. I was really quite shocked. Like almost exactly a year ago.
It is. Yeah, it is. I looked at when the last episode was out, and I'm like, where's that year gone? So, I mean, great way to open up, really. How has the year been for you, in terms of everything that's been going on? The world's opened up a little bit more than it was last time we spoke. I mean, what's been going on?
Well, I finally finished my album.
Yeah.
So I mean, oh gosh, yeah. it's been a while in the making. It's really
Yeah.
taken like 3.5 years or whatever
Wow.
to actually come together. But basically towards the end of last year, I went, oh my gosh, I've actually got to get this together and
Yeah.
I've got to finish it because it's easy, particularly when you're actually working on all the tracks yourself,
Mm.
at, in your own little space.
Mm. Yeah.
You go back and back and back and back and back, and you keep on working on things, and you think, oh yeah, it's finished, and then you listen and go, oh no, it's not. And it comes a point you've just actually got to go, stop.
It's
You've got to go,
done.
it's ready. And not change anything.
Sure.
But yeah. So it must have been towards the end of the year that I kind of went, okay, I've got to. How am I going to finish this?
Mm.
And I reached out to producer Chris Kimsey and sort of said, look, this is what I've been doing, and I've been doing this, and I've been doing that, and I brought in this, and I was completely lost in some of the mixes. I just
Right.
found it really hard to actually finish it.
Yeah.
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 So
you
he
find
came
that
to help.
when you're doing it yourself, it's like, I guess you just keep seeing other ways it can go, or you, as an artist, I suppose, same with writers, you're never truly happy or satisfied with your own work until someone else
Yeah.
comes in and they're like, actually, no, this is perfect, or do this. You can't get that outsider's view. You feel the same? Mm.
Yeah. I think it's really, really true. It's, yeah, as an artist, I find I get to a point that I lose sight of it.
Mm.
I'm so involved in the middle.
Yeah.
I can't see it from the outside. And yeah, it really does help to have someone, and you've got to be someone you trust, that you actually,
Yeah.
because it's got to be someone you respect and trust, and
Yeah.
can
You
actually
can't
kind
just
of
throw it
push the
out there and
button.
just say to anyone, rate this, because no, you need someone who's going to give their honest opinion, but also no. I mean, you spoke in
Yeah,
the last time we spoke about when you've worked with Chris Kimsey in the past, so
yeah,
knowing that he was involved again. And I've got to say, so we'll introduce the album. It's called Anew. It's out, am I right, on November the 11th?
yeah. 11th of November.
Exciting times. I have very, very gratefully, I had the opportunity to listen to it, and it is fantastic. And I am not just saying it, it's a beautiful album, and I don't say that, I don't think I say that enough really about music, but this one really did get me. Let's kind of, the title alone, at least for me, gives a real sense of almost, and you can imagine what's been going on over the last couple of years, while you try and be working on this. But Anew to me says it's almost like rebirth, reset,
Yeah,
new hope, that kind of thing. Is that sort of true, reflection of what it represents?
it totally is. It
Sure.
totally is. I in so many ways, literally from the writing process to, I suppose my whole life changed because I came to Guernsey, and I'm suddenly in this little island, and I've got sort of the sea all around me.
Cool.
And then with the whole COVID thing happening, and you sort of lockdown, and then you can't go anywhere off island. But it was also, I was changing a different part of my life, because my older children are like gone,
Yeah.
and my youngest is 16 now.
Wow.
And so it's like that part of your life, it changes, and suddenly I am able to spend more time doing music and stuff. So my whole life was changing, but I think a lot of it also was the way, like, I wrote some songs and I didn't know how to sing them.
Okay.
Like, it might sound really weird, as I'm supposed to be a singer,
Yeah.
but I couldn't figure out, it didn't sound right, and I couldn't sing it, and I could sort of hear in my head how it should be, but I found it really, really difficult to sing. In fact, one of the things that was really different for me, okay, I've always been quite dramatic, and I can get really carried away with it, and go, woo, 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 and I can get really carried away with it, and use lots of histrionics, and I whispered and do all this sort of stuff. But I found what I ended up doing for a lot of this album is I actually sat down to sing. Now that is like unheard of in how I was. Sat down, moved as little as possible, and I just sang. It was almost like I really came to approach the less is more sort of thing.
That's
so
cool.
that I was just really just singing it.
Yeah.
And that in a way I feel was more I wasn't hiding.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I wasn't hiding. I wasn't changing and really being, because I can take on different characters and there are a few songs in there that I still did that, like the Haunted Lane had come out as a single first, and that is more my kind of that's my dramatic side.
That was one song. There's a couple of songs I wanted to ask you about in particular. That is one of them. That's probably my favourite on the album.
Oh, is it? Well, there you go. Yeah. So, well, that was me in sort of full flight, as it were, really getting into a character, and it was because of the way it was written, and I was walking on this lane and the whole kind of concept of it. So that's definitely part of me. You're never going to get rid of that.
No. I can totally get what you're saying though about it's almost like reconnecting with, in a sense, reconnecting with nature, isn't it? Kind of stripping the process back to its bare bones. I guess that's what, for a lot of people, I wouldn't say it was the case for me, but I've heard a lot of people during COVID, particularly during lockdown, they had that opportunity to kind of block out the world outside and concentrate on something they've been meaning to do, or something that they used to do, that, you know, having that time again to rediscover that element. It's great that you had that chance for that to kind of come out in some way in this album. That's brilliant. That's cool. It's cool. How if you were to say sort of how it compares to the work that you've done before, is it different in any way? Sort of not necessarily in substance, but sort of how you feel about it as well.
I think I'm a little bit nervous about this one.
Okay.
Because it is. I feel that it is different.
Mm-hmm.
But in saying why is it different, how is it different, I can't really. I don't
let the audience decide. I suppose part of that is how they receive it.
Yeah. I mean, some of it probably is that in some respects I spent more time. In some respects I was possibly some of it I'm singing quite high in a way that I may not have done very much for the last few albums. I don't know. I think I was being like something like the Femina Australis album. I was very much sort of telling the stories, and I found that in general I had to sing quite low so that you could sort of hear the words very clearly, the sort of storytelling aspect, and that is still there on something like The Smuggler's Tale, though I'd recorded it all in various ways, and then I ended up actually throwing the whole thing out and starting again, and in a lower key.
Oh, okay.
Because it was, and it's still not low, but it was very high, and I felt the words were really important, and I didn't think you could hear the words enough.
Okay. And that is important. You know, I mean, that some people can just listen to music, it just sort of, you know, to hear a melody, hear a tune going on, and not really need to absorb the words. I think the kind, but what I get with yours is I can have it on in the background while I'm working, and I have it on my headphones as well while I'm walking. I do. It's that bit where I learn more about it, because I can definitely hear what it is, you know, the stories that you're telling, and it's almost like I'm listening to a different song. It's very, very odd, but it's great at the same time. I think the kind of things you sing about, that's really important, that you can take that in, you know. And you touched on the second song there that I was going to ask you about, so I will kind of go into the ones in particular that kind of grabbed me. Smuggler's Tale. I just really want to know, with this and The Haunted Lane, then what are the stories or the inspirations behind them? You know, are they based on anything, or did it just kind of come from nowhere?
Okay. Well, the smuggler's tale is actually, well, yeah, okay. It's kind of all true. Okay, what happened was, my dad has always told us that we were descended from smugglers. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I ended up a long time ago, like I'm literally probably talking, 25, 30 years ago. I went with my parents to Cornwall, and we went down to Newlyn, which is where my grandmother was from.
Okay.
And we went to, and her mother was Laura Carter, and was part of, and grew up in a pub that was owned by the Carter family. Now, so Big Jack Carter, I was always told, yeah, it's Big Jack Carter was, the smuggler that you descended from. And it seems, well, so basically, okay, they are apparently who the Pirates of Penzance and stuff was kind of, it was kind of looking at, it was down at Penzance. And we went looking for his grave. So we went to all these different churchyards and gravestones, and we were coming out of it, and my dad would be looking at the map and just going, okay, that's the cove down there. Now, maybe it was this one, and we'd wander and walk around the gravestones. Yeah. And we were leaving one of them feeling quite disheartened, and this guy in like a monk's habit came striding up the path and said, oh, can I help you? You look like you might be looking for something. And we told him, yeah, we were looking for, Big Jack Carter's grave, and but we can't find it. And he said, oh, and he said, come with me. And he took us to the side of the church, and there he showed us this gravestone. And so, gosh, I wish I had, like, I'm sure I did take a photo or something, but anyway, can't find any of that. So it's literally, this is my memory, because I've looked on the internet and can't find it anywhere. I need to go back to Cornwall to search for this.
Good excuse to come back. But yeah,
I agree, sir. I agree. But anyway, so he showed us this grave, and so it said he was drowned by the customs and excise man, and it had the guy's name.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, so it said that yeah, he was drowned by the customs and excise man on this date. Basically, the boat was run over him. He was about to get caught.
Right.
He dived off the boat because he didn't want to get caught, and they ran over him.
Right. Okay.
And he was killed. And then you point out that the grave right next to the smuggler's grave was the name from the previous gravestone. It was the customs and excise man.
Okay.
And it was dated 1 week after the first death.
Ooh.
So retribution.
Yeah.
And then the priest told us that the whole thing was the customs and excise guys were so furious because they knew the smuggling was going on and they couldn't catch them and they couldn't find the contraband. And then he explained that the priest was actually the brother of the smuggler.
Right.
And the reason they couldn't find the contraband was because he kept it underneath the church.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
I'm soaking all this in. There's a horror and ghost story going on in my head, inspired by this. It's fantastic. Is this a well-known story? Is it one sort of local, or just sort of known by you because of Well,
this is so basically this priest showed me these gravestones. I read what was on them, and he explained to me about the brothers, and that the brother was the priest in the church, and they kept the contraband under there, and it was such a family affair. And in Cornwall in those days, it wasn't really like Cornwall is even part of Britain, like Britain thought it was, but the Cornish felt that they were a separate country. And and I understood that growing up. Oh no, the Cornish are not, they're not English. They're Cornish.
Yes, still goes on, I think, to be honest with you. Yeah, but yeah.
So no, I've looked on the internet and I haven't found nobody knows where his grave is. And I figured out, I think they're looking at the wrong church because because one of the other, I think it's a different brother, became a Methodist lay minister. used to do Methodist things, but this guy, you see, I've not been able to remember the name of the church either, though I think I've pinpointed it.
Okay.
But the guy was wearing like a monk's habit thing. He wasn't Methodist, that's for
No.
sure. You know, so I think it's a different church, and I've got to go back and find out. But anyway, finally, you know, 25, 30 years of this going around in my head.
Yeah.
I was sitting on a rock in Sark, the little island of
Yeah.
Sark. I was climbed on top of a rock there, looking down the cliffs at the sea. And I was with my daughter, and she'd just gone to sleep on the next door rock. And I just wrote it. I got out my notebook, and I wrote it. And so that is how A Smuggler's Tale came.
That's fantastic. That is a fantastic story in itself, and I love. This is going right back. This is one of the reasons why I did this podcast, because I love delving into my own, the reasons why I wrote certain things. So I absolutely love it when I speak to people like yourself who have written songs in particular and able to tell a story within a song, but there's a story behind that. Yeah, I go for forever with that. That's fantastic. Brilliant. Cool. The Haunted Lane, then, it would definitely appeal to me as a bit of a horror, horror writer, horror fan. It's got that real spooky kind of, obviously, feel to it. So what's behind that one?
The Haunted Lane. Okay. So I'm in Guernsey. And it's got a long history.
Yeah.
Now, there's a guy, I found his book on the internet. You can sort of get basically, okay, Edgar McCulloch wrote a sort of book of Guernsey folklore a long time ago. Okay. And some of it was in, I think, Guernsey French, Guernsey, and then translated. And it was never finished. And this woman who did his notes and stuff ended up sort of compiling it. And it got kind of put out. Now, I discovered that actually just before I moved to Guernsey, because I was like looking up things. Oh, where is this place and what's it all about? And I found some amazing stories in this book. And it's quite interesting, actually. There's just I discovered a few days ago, there's a bit of a woman's dug out these stories and translated them, and they're turning them into walks around the island.
Oh, wow, cool. That's cool.
Yeah. But anyway, there was a particular lane. There's, I think, 3 stories that I read that were all to do with this lane that was known as the Haunted Lane. Okay. And why? And there are three stories there. But basically, there's some really horrible murders that took place. One, literally, this guy from Paris who was just, he was here on holiday and he'd been around a few months, and then he was about to go back, and he got set upon. These 2 brothers who lived in a farmhouse had gone, and they just attacked him and took all his belongings, because he was all ready to go on the boat. Yeah, and he'd gone for a little walk on his way before he went to get the boat, but he had his suitcase with him, and they threw his body over the cliffs. Right. And they took his suitcase, and it was only because his friend from Paris came looking for him later, saying no, he'd never left Guernsey. He was quite sure of it, and discovered his belongings in a shop for sale and stuff. Wow. That this trail was followed, and they found out what happened. But there are 3 stories, so that was one of them that happened on the Haunted Lane. And these 3 things happened like 100 years apart or whatever, each of them. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So one of them was actually the most exciting one. There's this place called Petit Port, and it's the most beautiful tiny little beach, and these big cliffs that go down to it, and there's an incredibly steep stairways that are built in, and when the tide's in, it's just smashing against the rocks, but when the tide's out, there's this gorgeous little beach. Okay. It goes out really quite a long way, and but there was basically all these people who lived around there kept hearing this terrible screaming at night. Right. And they were all getting really quite freaked out by it. And it had gone on for months and months, these terrible screams. And they thought they were coming up from Petit Port. Okay. And there are caves down there and all that sort of stuff.
Really selling that to me. I love places like that.
Yeah, yeah. And anyway, so there was this guy who was... a priest. I'm not sure which religion, but in fact he was married, so he's definitely not Catholic. So it's like, but he was like a priest or a minister, and they talked about it to a number of his community, and there'd been like about 10 of them had agreed to meet, and they were going to go down there at midnight, you know, and find out what this was all about, sort it out.
Yeah.
So they'd all arranged to meet, and nobody turned up. He was only him. But he didn't give up. He went down. So he went down to he apparently went off down there. And basically he came home a few hours later, white and shaking, and flatly refused to talk about what had gone on. Absolutely refused to say anything about it. Said no one else had come, but he went anyway. Never breathed a word of what actually happened there.
Wow.
But there was no more screaming.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. He was going to go down with a group of people, and they were going to perform an exorcism, I think.
Okay.
Is what they were going to do. But basically, no one knows what happened. But this terrible blood-curdling screams stopped.
Answers on the postcard, peeps. What do you think happened? Wow, that's one of those. That leaves you wondering. I can imagine how you can come to any kind of, if you want to be like yourself, really come to your own deductions from that, you know, into putting it into a work of your own. It's got endless possibilities, isn't it?
Yeah. And there was a third murder, but that happened down at Petty Port. And anyway, there was a third one going on. But the thing is, I spent ages trying to find out, where is this haunted lane? It wasn't on any maps.
Okay.
And eventually I found a really old map that had it on. And I discovered it was this little lane that I walked my dog on regularly.
Wow.
At dusk quite often, you know.
Wow. You won't do
And
that the same again. But...
And that is then how I wrote it. I was like on the back of my neck and thinking of things, and having read about all these, some of the very bloodthirsty murders, a few of them, and then walking along and it's like walking the haunted lane. Yeah.
I love that.
That is how, and then I had to get my phone out and sing into my voice. I actually got written walking along the haunted lane.
That makes it even better, doesn't it? Really done on location. I was going to say, actually, had it kind of changed how you saw it once you knew that's where that happened, you know? Yeah, I mean, it comes out, it came out in the song, which is the best way possible.
Yeah. And then, of course, it was almost like I kind of almost saw like my own sort of ghosts during it then, you know. It's like, and so that kind of came into it as well. So it evolved into walking the haunted lane and you know, no, I want to live, you know, sort of thing. That's
brilliant. That's brilliant. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be the same on the general release of it or whatever, but obviously on the version that I've got, that is, aside from an alternate take of Spirit, I think it is, that's the last song. I think it's a very, very strong end to this album. It does kind of, you have a feeling throughout the album of, like I say, hope, and you know, it's very uplifting, and then you come to that song and it's just kind of hits you on that little bit, almost brings you right back down with a bump in a great way for me, because like I say, I love things like this. Just kind of, you know, teases on a lot darker side, and I thought it's such a great way to end it.
Oh, really. Good.
Yeah.
Good, because it was a bit weird. It was almost like, oh gosh, does this song fit?
I was going to say, yeah, I can imagine where would you put it in amongst all the others, but I feel, I mean, I don't know, you know, you could play around with it and find anywhere for it to go, but I think the way I felt with that anyway, you get this lovely kind of feeling going through it, and all of a sudden this real kind of threat at the end with that song. But it's again, it's one of those like typical kind of horror films or ghost stories that really do stick with me. It's like where you've got hope, you got sort of the happy ending, and then not quite, you know, there's a twist at the end, and I feel that song is definitely the twist on this album, and that's brilliant. It's brilliant. Cool. It's great that we've talked about the two kind of spooky songs out of that again this time of year, because they really fit. But is there, apart from those, is there any other song on the album which either has more sort of, you know, a personal meaning to you for any way, or based on anything, any kind of more great stories that you can tell us?
Let me just have a look here. I mean, it's like, oh,
It's probably difficult because they're all going to mean something to you, aren't they? But
well, of course they all
yeah.
do mean something, but those are certainly the sort of spooky ones, you know. It's like everything, yeah, everything, you know, has a meaning. The reason I wrote Superwoman, which
Yeah.
which is, I guess, a slightly odd song, but I really like it. It's definitely one of, well, I suppose I probably really like all of them, you know. But like
Yeah.
to me, Superwoman does have a, I don't know, it's got
This when I heard
something.
this one, yeah, you tell us more about it. When I heard it, it's one of those, it did sort of hit me in amongst all the others, because I think the lyrics as it opens up is fantastic. You know, it's very, very simple. You know, I'm Superwoman, I'm Super Lady, I'm Super great, and it's always like I could understand in a way the meaning behind it
Mhm.
completely. But yeah, sort of, yeah, you know, carry on, sort of.
Well, I actually wrote it because in you know, the Cairns Club, which
Yeah,
is yeah, my sort of,
your crew,
yeah,
it's your
crew,
cozy club.
the
Yeah,
Cairns Club. That's right. My mug, you know.
there you go.
I'll have a sip then. Mm.
Product placement, why not?
Oh yeah. But we do these Zoom calls, and on one of them, this girl Rachel said, she was just talking about how there were always like Supergirl songs, or like you know, or Wonder Woman or whatever.
Mm,
But you know, you've got Superman. Why isn't there like a Superwoman?
mm,
You know, it's like, it's not a girl. It
yeah.
should be a woman.
Mm,
You know, it should be Superwoman. And I was like, oh gee, and this idea of like just having like Superwoman, it just like went into my head, and whoop, you know, and I wrote a song from it.
That's great. Did you find
So
that those settings, because I'm still guilty, I've still not made it to one of them, and I really want to. It's just, you know, my diary's all over the place. But do you draw a lot of inspiration from that contact you've got with your listeners, that you know, in the Cairns Club?
I think it really helps me as an artist to kind of having that kind of connection, because I suppose I've always been a very, very solitary writer,
Mm,
and I still am. It's like that's how I write, is by myself.
yeah,
But to actually have a kind of bit of a sounding board,
yeah,
that of a group of people who, you know, I know they've got my back, as it were,
yeah,
you know, to be able to actually say, hey, this is something I've been writing, and here's a version of it. Like the Smuggler's Tale had several different versions. I said it was
okay,
in a different key, and it had many more verses, and was like very long
yeah,
at first, and stuff like that. And so it's really great for me to actually be able to go into this sort of environment, which, yes, it's a virtual environment, but it's an environment.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, play a song,
mm,
and is really good, because also I think as soon as you play a song to someone else, it brings on a different life, if that
yeah,
makes any
yeah. I
sense.
get that. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. When it's just you, it's different. So it sort of brings it over,
Yeah,
and it's very nerve-wracking, you know.
yeah.
First
Even though it
time.
is just physically you are there on your own in that room, you've
Yeah.
got it's like real time feedback, you know, rather than kind of sending, you know, sound file off to someone, waiting for them to respond or something like that. In the
Yeah.
absence of, you know, a live crowd, which we'll come on to in a minute. Another question I got. You still got that, you know, that, like you say, that exchange,
Yeah.
um, and you can probably get more of an honest response, I feel, from someone who literally just heard it and responding to it, rather than someone who's had time to sort of sit back and listen to it a few times and then construct something to come back to you with. Yeah.
Well, in a way, yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
and I mean, it doesn't mean they'll always be, you know, completely positive out or like,
No.
but you know, I mean, no one says next.
No, because I think at the end of the day, they're all there for a reason.
Yeah,
They obviously love your work already, but you,
exactly. So,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
which is great because you got people who are familiar with your work already. So it's not like
mm,
you're trying this all out on the new audience, which obviously would be fantastic as well. But you're getting responses from people who already understand what you do, and sort of know where you've gone before or whatever, and feel comfortable enough to give you that kind of feedback, which is great to. It's a
yeah,
great little community you've got going on there, which is fantastic. I touched on that in the last time we spoke about how you promoted yourself, particularly when I discovered your music last year. Um, I think you almost like you're doing everything right. For me, you're ticking off all the boxes for how to market yourself in a very challenging environment. And it was it was very different than what I've seen before. How growing that group yourself. Yeah. So
well, it's very rewarding for me as an artist to be able to connect with the people who
yeah,
really like what I do, you
yeah,
know. And
yeah,
it's like, yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
it's exciting times. And now I've taken the club that step further. That we've also got this sort of we've actually got an inner circle now, which is subscription based, and that's really exciting in itself as well. You know. Yeah, yeah.
That's
It's
brilliant.
very exciting time actually as an independent artist. I think
Yeah,
that finding new ways of what's going to work, because no one has to pay for music anymore, and in some ways
no,
that's brilliant because they can go on Spotify and discover what one does, and then if they want to be involved, that's
yeah,
awesome too, you know.
yeah. It's double-edged sword, though, isn't it? Because when everything's free, I mean, yes, we pay
Mm,
subscriptions to things like Spotify and the like, but um, when you've got that much variety, how do you make yourself stand out? How do you make your
yeah,
work um, visible
yeah,
to everyone else? I think those things that you're doing, where you've got these other like bolt-ons almost, when they find you, there's all these other ways that they can interact with you and find your music and partake and stuff.
yeah. Well, look, I had a moment of not feeling so good about everything a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
When it's that sort of thing where you drop a song and it's like 40,000 other songs dropped that day as well.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, no, nobody really gets to hear it. But then I realized that that's it. Um, I've got, I have found a way, and I've got a group of people who like what I do. And really that's who I need to concentrate on.
Yeah.
You know, not the millions who have no idea.
No.
I'm like a little ant over there, you know. You can see me in microscope. You know. But and yeah. So I've realised that is the really, you know, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You know. So yes, it's a different world, and it's small, but it's like that's okay.
Yeah.
It's actually,
It's loyal,
yeah,
you know.
and it can grow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the benefits of the world as it is now, being digital, on social media and everything. Anyone can, I know this as a writer doing some self-publishing thing that I've dabbled in a little bit in the past. It's
Yes.
like you don't have to wait to find these big publishers now. You can do it yourself. You've got an idea, you can put it out there as long as you know how to do it right.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's a lot of people say independent art forums saturate the market. Um, it's just giving everyone who wants to be involved in it a chance to get seen, even if it's not by millions or thousands.
Hmm.
See, you will find someone will find you who you're exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah. So the singles that you've released from the new album so far, how sort of kind of responsive have you had from them? From
Well,
those who are familiar, those who aren't.
yeah. Well, look, pretty good, really. I
Yeah.
think the I found like Spill the Tea came out a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
and in general, I've had really good response. But I found it really hard getting out to a lot of sort of like Spotify playlisted type of things.
Mm.
And what I found really hard was I got fantastic feedback. Everyone was like, "Oh, it's like a really good song, and it's like it's done well. You sing it well, and the music's good." And there's, "Oh, but it doesn't fit on my playlist. It's not the right sound." And that's a really, really hard thing. And I think it's like genre. I'm going, well, what genre am I? What genre is that song? And because I do cross genres quite a lot.
You do. But we said again last time, they said that's a fantastic thing, to have, I suppose, except in this kind of what you're talking about is that trying to fit on someone's list where they're just looking at certain kinds of things. Yeah, but you found what I've seen, you found a home on at least a couple of them.
Yeah, exactly. I have, and like BBC Introducing have played that a couple of times now, and I mean, look, a lot of the problem with marketing as like a small artist is, yes, I've got this whole list of things I can do, but I don't have time to do them all.
No,
and that's the really big thing. I've come back to, well, hang on, it's me. I can't physically do all of this, but I can do this and I can do that. And I just don't have enough hours in the day. So it's you gotta have a life as well.
Absolutely, yeah. People forget this. They're sat there waiting for the next album. It's like, well, it takes time. I've got to kind of do this around stuff. But yeah, no, totally with you.
It takes time, and in a way, you've got to have a life and actually be able to write the next album, because you go, oh, what do you write about?
You need a life to come to actually have something to write about as well. I mean, we all take inspiration from the oddest things. So you need things to happen for that to come along. So where are you in terms of getting out there and performing? I can see you've had a couple of things on the go this year, but sort of what's the future looking like in terms of being able to get out there, particularly with the new album when it is out, being able to kind of perform alongside it?
Well, I do have plans, but at the moment, the only thing I do have, hang on, I've got a poster here. There we go. So, I don't know if you can see that, but it is basically, it's a Guernsey gig.
Okay.
Just a sort of.
Let's go flood the island, shall we? Right? Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Flood the island, so because I was like, okay, what am I going to do of releasing this album? But like, I'm here. What am I going to do? And I thought, you know what? I need to have a show, but I couldn't do it on the actual night of the album, because I thought, oh, I'll do it the 11th of November, and I had an idea where I wanted to do it. But then I discovered that there was another on that night that was sort of female singer-songwriters and all this sort of stuff, and it was like, and I thought, I can't do it then. All it will really do is split the audience, for everyone. It's not a good thing. No. So because Guernsey is not a massive place. No. May have 65,000 people, but they don't all go to gigs.
No, so it's amazing what small space that many people can get into. To be fair, but yeah. So I've gone for a week later, and I am going to play most of the album, pretty much all of it, maybe even all of it. Cool, that'd be good, wouldn't it? That'd give people
so that'll be really fun. And I have been saying for ages that I'm going to tour, and I really am. But it's like it has taken a while, and I don't have anything set, but I am intending to come to the UK and do some gigs next year.
Awesome.
So
if you're down in the southwest, I can imagine you'll have a draw to Cornwall. With Devon, where I am, I think your music would be fantastically placed here. So if it's on your route map as you go through, I would definitely be up for seeing you when you're over here. Actually,
great.
That'd be
great.
Cool.
Yeah. So well, what have you got any ideas of, like, I'm looking for either really intimate venues, or else on lineups with other people.
Okay.
I think the sort of right sort of music that sort of fits in there, because For a bigger band, I'm quite a good support artist because it's just me.
Yeah, there you go.
And I make quite a lot of noise. So.
Get the crowd going, and not almost because I've heard this before from others. I think it was possibly when I was talking to Sound of the Sirens earlier this year. They said, yeah, it's just the two of us. We don't take over your stage. We've only got a fairly small setup, but we can definitely get the show moving. So yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
but
cool, exciting times.
But the plan is that because I do really love playing live, and yeah, it's been a while.
I was
really.
I
haven't played live in the UK for a long time.
No, we're still feeling, I think, the hangover of COVID now, because there are a lot of places that are still hesitant to put shows on, or there's bands or productions out there that still don't want to, still wary of drawing a big crowd and whatever. So each year that goes by, and we every few months that go by, we're just hopefully getting further towards that being the norm again. And it's hopefully we won't all have gotten too used to being in the four walls, and we can actually go out there and enjoy it. I know
Well, exactly, because we get used to just being at home and popping on virtually sort of thing, But it's like it is good to actually get out there and play with real people and do real music. I mean, I played it at Sark Fest this year, and that was actually really, really great.
Cool.
It was beautiful stage. Me and my son Elvis played with me.
Cool. And, that was cool.
Yeah. It was really nice, and got to do more of it.
There you go. That's the way forward. So, final question really just popped into my head. Sort of the writing of this album. You said it's kind of taken place over the last sort of few years. In terms of the writing itself, how easily that came to you, during. I hate to go back to it, but I think it's such a massive change, culturally. 2020, 2021 did change a lot of things, especially artistically. Is your approach to the album? Did you find it easier or harder really than before to get your head in gear to write stuff, or with the fact that you were at home more, maybe that it made it easier for you to just literally capture those moments of inspiration? What was it like compared to before?
I did a lot of writing. I've written a lot of stuff that's half written.
Cool. Sounds familiar.
Have to get on with at some point.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think for me, a huge amount was that I had a bit more time, so I used it, and then of course I went down the rabbit hole, for things, and I got very more sort of skilled in actually using my own recording equipment. I got a lot better at that.
Cool.
And a lot more sort of experience at that, and experimented more with ways, because I've got to say that the last few albums, which yes, I've recorded my own parts at home and everything, but it's always been like, and it still was to an extent, but I have less of a commute now. So if it was like, okay, I've taken the kids, I've got, it used to be that I had an hour's drive down the hill to get the kids.
Right, yeah.
So like, I go home and I'm like, right, I've got 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it's like, and I'll be like, boom, get in there and quickly do stuff. And I've always set myself deadlines, because if I don't, I just find deadlines are really important. But it used to be that I couldn't make my deadlines, or I only had like, I don't know, I did things sort of probably much quicker, but when I had a bit more time and I looked at what I was doing, I'd go back and go, actually, I can do that better.
Yeah.
I can do that differently.
Yeah.
What would it sound like if I did this?
Yeah.
And that's when I went down the rabbit hole a bit, because there's always something that can be different.
It's the finer details, and it's not so much the getting the ideas on paper, it's making them sound and appear the best they can be, I suppose. Yeah. Because I can actually, if I get into just writing, I can write a lot. Yeah.
And I can have, I'll have like, words, melody, chords.
Yeah.
But it's to get it from that phase to, which I'll usually take it further over and add different instruments, or
Yeah.
maybe I write something on guitar, but when I play it on the piano, I realize no, it actually could be like this. Oh, what would happen if I put strings in here?
Okay.
And that's the thing. And part of me has to pull myself back and go, no, hang on a moment. No, we're going to use guitar.
Yeah.
We're going to use guitar for everything.
Yeah.
Pretty much, and stuff like that. Or, I do have to not go too far with all that.
You could make it sound really, really epic, couldn't you? But would it just detract from the true nature of the song in some cases? Some songs warrant that. They're big dramatic pieces, but some songs just sound as good when it's just literally one or two instruments.
Yeah. And I have found in the past that basically I've actually gone down the rabbit hole and I've almost lost the song.
Got you.
So I know with me, really, I need to keep focus of the words and the melody. Keep that focused, and everything else should support it, but not take it over. Although, of course, I do have an instrumental track on there, don't I?
You do, and that caught me by surprise a little bit, because I was like, this is sounding really, really good. Just waiting for the lyrics to cut in, and then all of a sudden the next song comes along. Oh, okay. But no, it's beautiful. Like I was saying at the top of the show, it is a beautiful album. So congratulations. It's all the best for wish it brings you every success. It's definitely something anyone watching, listening to this, go out and listen to it. 11th of November when it hits. Everyone can enjoy it. Maryen Cairns and Anew. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Chris. Great to be here with you.
And you. Now, just before I let you go, just remind everyone where they can find you if they don't already, follow your work, and how they can get more involved, particularly with like the Cairns Club and everything you've got going on.
Well, if you go to maryencairns.com, which is probably not spelled like it sounds, as in MaryenCairns.com. If you go there, you will basically find invitation to sign up for the Cairns Club, which is completely free, and you get some free music, and you get to hear about stuff that's going on. Then get a few emails about my journey through life, journey of music, and then if you want to get more involved, you can through the inner circle. But it's like you can pretty much. But basically, yes, the music is out there.
Yeah.
And this is my 7th album, my 7th studio album. So there's a lot of stuff you can listen to I have done.
It is. Well, I'm thinking though, sort of the number of years that you've been doing this, and I would say that's fairly modest. It's almost like there's consideration behind each of the releases, rather than just literally having to get something out every year. Because I think you can have a back catalogue which is too big, but it's very manageable, and readily available.
Well, I have got like a 10-year gap there at one stage. I think there's another 8-year gap. So it's like, what is it? I think it's like 92, 94, 2002.
Something like that, yeah.
2012. And then we go 2016, 2019, 2022. So, that's actually 16, 90. Yeah, there you go.
So
3-year gaps.
Just going back to the point we made, you've got to let life happen in between to have something to write about. So
that's it.
Yeah. So Maryen, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations again, and all the best with the new album. And I look forward to doing this again, hopefully in the future. Keep in touch. And yeah, absolutely. If you're over here, I'll definitely be there. See you in person.
Hey, awesome. Okay. Think about any venues. Let me know.
I will. I'll get me brain box going.
Fabulous.
Thanks again.
Take care. Bye bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to keep updated about all future shows.